This is Little Caesar's Pizza. How can I help you?
On July 8th, 2003, an ordinary afternoon unfolded inside a Little Caesar's pizza restaurant in San Jose, California. Phones rang, orders were taken, customers came and went. Then one call stood out. On the other end of the line was a little girl. Her voice was quiet, unsteady, as if she was trying not to cry. She spoke slowly, carefully, spelling out every letter of her home address, one by one, pausing between each word as if afraid of being interrupted.
I'm sorry? Who is this?
The cashier listened, confused at first, then uneasy. This wasn't an order. What the cashier didn't know was that the girl had been kidnapped, that her abductor was close enough to hear every word she said, and that this phone call, lasting only moments, would be her only contact with the outside world after days of captivity.
He went downstairs, came back upstairs with the pizza and was standing with the pizza box and was staring at me. And he handed me a flyer. And on the flyer was a picture of me and it said missing. Turned to me, he was like, I have to get rid of you tonight.
By the time police arrived at the address she spelled out, 9-year-old Jeanette Tamayo was already gone.
A young girl was abducted from her home after school.
My fear turned into courage. And I told myself, I'm a fighter. I'm gonna make it.
Earlier that day, Jeanette had stepped off her school bus in San Jose, a city known for innovation, technology, and safety. She was doing what she had done countless times before, walking home. When she reached the house, she noticed something small but unusual. The screen door was slightly open. Jeanette assumed her mother may have returned early from work. She didn't feel alarmed. She walked inside. The house was quiet, too quiet. When Jeanette entered her bedroom, she stopped. The window had been shattered. Broken glass covered the floor. For a moment, she stood frozen, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Then instinct took over.
When I came home, I noticed that the screen door was open like 3 to 4 inches, and I didn't think much of it. I was like, my mom probably left it open. She was probably watering the plants or doing something outside, and she probably didn't close it all the way. And as soon as I stepped inside and walked into my room, I noticed that my window was broken, like somebody had shattered it. And so that made me feel like something's wrong, something's a little off.
She ran toward the phone to call her mother. The line was dead. The cable had been cut. Before she could react, before she could run, a knock echoed through the house. Jeanette turned. A man stood behind the screen door. She didn't know him. Scared and confused, she opened the door.
There was a man knocking on the door, and I didn't know what he was doing there. I was like, what could he want? And when he was asking me questions, he was kind of peeking inside, trying to see who was in there with me. And that started making me feel really uncomfortable, and I started slowly closing the sliding door. And he put his hand in the way, slid it open, grabbed me, and took me to my brother's room. He started to rape me. I was trying to get away. I started kicking him. He kept grabbing me, but I couldn't do anything, and I was just scared. And as soon as he was doing what he was doing to me, I started to cry. I was in pain, I was scared, and it was just the most horrific feeling I could have felt.
Out of respect for Jeanette, the details of what followed are not described. What matters is this: she was assaulted, she was restrained, and she was taken toward the garage. Moments later, another car pulled into the driveway. It was her mother, Rosalia, and her older brother, Paul. Paul was only 15 years old, but when he saw the man, he didn't hesitate. He grabbed the first thing he could find and ran toward him. He never stood a chance.
My brother crawled under the garage. When it opened a few inches, the first thing I told him was to run.
Jeanette, handcuffed and bound, could only watch as her brother was beaten and dragged back into the house. Then Rosalia came face to face with the attacker. She fought to protect her children. She managed to separate him from her son, but only briefly. Paul ran to the kitchen, grabbed a frying pan, and tried again. The man disarmed him, then turned his rage on Rosalia. Again and again, he struck her until she collapsed onto the floor. She was severely injured, but she was alive.
I remember hearing my mom screaming, and it went quiet. I couldn't hear much after that. And I see the man rush back into the garage and into the car. And when I seen blood on his face, I was like, did you kill them? And he just started laughing, and I just started to cry. I was like, I didn't know if he had killed them. I didn't know, like, if they were there anymore, if he had killed them, and I was just thinking with the blood on his face that they were gone. I just remember thinking to myself, where are we going? Is he gonna kill me? I didn't know. My family was gone.
Jeanette was carried back to the car. As the vehicle sped away, Jeanette struggled against her restraints and turned to look back one last time. She saw her mother running after the car. Her face was bloodied, her body wounded, but she was standing. Not far behind, Paul limped toward nearby neighbors, screaming for help, waving his arms in desperation. Jeanette screamed too. She slammed her shoulder against the window, shouting for passing drivers to stop. No one did. Her captor noticed. He reached for a screwdriver. Jeanette retreated, curling away, doing everything she could to survive.
I just remember sliding down, laying there and looking up at the ceiling of the car and just thinking to myself, I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna die.
When police arrived at the Tamayo home, they were met with chaos. Rosalia refused to leave in an ambulance. She tried to explain what had happened through pain and shock.
Dios existe. Help me with my daughter.
We had no idea where she was and if we would see her again.
The phone line had been cut. The house had been broken into earlier. Jeanette had been taken. A neighbor's security camera offered limited help. The footage was grainy, the audio distorted. But it revealed something critical. 30 minutes before Jeanette arrived home, the attacker had already been inside the house. He smashed her bedroom window, he cut the phone line, and then he waited. When Jeanette came home alone, he knocked. This was not random, it was planned. There was no Amber Alert issued. Days passed. No suspect, no solid lid. Jeanette's family turned to the media.
Your mother, I don't care what happened to you, you thinking and your kids, but I don't can do anything. I don't can do anything. I don't protect my kids.
Helicopters filled the skies, calling out her name through loudspeakers. Press conferences followed. San Jose was listening.
We had our helicopter up. They were just looking for anything. They were using the PA systems. We were doing anything we could to put out the word, to let her know or let him know that we are looking for her and we're not going to stop.
Meanwhile, Jeanette was being held inside a locked room, small, isolated, controlled. There was a bed, a television, a bathroom, and a door that stayed locked.
I remembered what turns he was making. I thought to myself, if I do make it out of here, I can remember. And then we suddenly stopped. The house looked like the same houses that were in my neighborhood. Nice, quiet, white. He opened up the garage, drove the car in there, closed the garage door, and pulled me out. And he grabs me, throws me over his shoulder, and walks through a door. Once he went upstairs, he put me down and he took out a key. I was scared because I knew if I tried to escape, I would need that key. He threw me on the bed. There was a small TV, a bathroom. It looked like just a very small bedroom. I just started crying. My freedom was taken away from me. I was captive.
After the first day, fear gave way to something else. Focus. On the second day, Jeanette began to plan. She observed her captor's routine. She memorized sounds, footsteps, doors, the layout of the house. If she ever escaped, she wanted to remember everything. When she was briefly left alone, she noticed something about the handcuffs.
Feeling with my fingers a little button and like a latch. I realized that if I moved the latch one way and pressed that button, the handcuffs would release.
They didn't require a key. They were mechanical. She freed herself. And for the first time, she had a choice. A run, or leave something behind.
In the morning, he was watching the news again. My cousin was talking to me through the news. She was saying, Jeanette, if you can hear us, just know that. Be strong, girl. We're looking for you. She was like, just don't give up. That gave me hope. That gave me the strength. Either I'm going to fight to get out of here or die trying.
She chose evidence. She gathered what she could. Small objects, her clothing, anything that might later tell police who had done this to her.
My brother and I would always watch CSI, Law and Order, and the detectives on the shows would always look for clues.
On the third day, the man brought pizza into the room. Resting on top of the box was a missing person flyer. Her face stared back at her. He smiled. Then he told her he would get rid of her that night. When he left the room, Jeanette moved quickly. She stuffed all the evidence into the pizza box and hid it under the bed. She didn't know if she would survive, but she hoped the evidence would. That night, the man tried to kill her. She survived through instinct and desperation alone. Later, she was forced back into the car. This drive was longer, more confusing. Still, Jeanette tried to remember everything.
We were sitting in the room for a while, and afterwards, when he heard that it was all quiet, that's when he took me downstairs into the garage. It was all dark. I remember just crying to myself and just saying, I did the best I could. I was just preparing myself for my own death.
Eventually, the car stopped beneath bright neon lights. A liquor store.
The window, and I seen it was all dark, and all I seen that was bright was a market. I remember the car suddenly stopped, and he said, "Get out." I just looked at him and opened the door. He grabbed me by my hair and pulled me towards his face, and he said, "If you tell anybody who I am or what I did, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill your family."
When the man let his guard down, Jeanette ran. She burst inside and asked the cashier to call the police. Officers arrived within minutes.
I ran inside the store, and I remember running to an aisle and just crying. But I wasn't crying because I was sad. I was crying because I was so happy. I was happy and I was afraid, and I was just all kinds of emotions in one. And I remember the gentleman that was behind the counter looking at me and asking me, "Are you okay?" And I told him, "No."
She said, "Let me use the phone." I said, "Okay, here's the phone." When she started dialing the phone, she was panicking, scared. She don't know how to dial the number.
And he picked up the phone and I said, "Please don't call the cops." And I started crying. He was asking me, "What's your name?" I said, "Jeanette." And then he said, "You're the little girl from TV."
Detective Randall listened as Jeanette calmly handed over the evidence she had saved. Then she asked for paper. She drew the house, the layout, the phone number, everything she remembered.
I walked up to her and I said, "Hello, Jeanette. My name's Heather, and I'm here to help you." And before I really said anything else, she let me know that she had some evidence in her pocket. I asked her, "Do you think you can find his house?" And she said, "I think I can." And she said that she could direct us by saying right or left, right or left.
I felt brave. I think that's why I stood up in the back of the car and started yelling and saying, "That's it."
Our SWAT team then put a plan in place to go and take him into custody. They had a layout of the home from Jeanette, and they went in and were able to determine that he was hiding up in the attic.
Police traced the pizza order. They found the house. When they raided it, the suspect resisted arrest. Inside the locked room, beneath the bed, officers found the pizza box. Jeanette Tamayo didn't just survive her kidnapping. She documented it. She remembered it. And she helped bring her captor to justice.
I remember them taking me to the hospital, running tests on me. I remember opening the door and seeing my mom. And her face was so bad. Like, she didn't even look like my mom.
I think she touched my mom's face. She said, "You're hurt." You know, she was so brave. She didn't care about herself. She was worried about us.
You're everything to me, you and Paul were.
Yeah. Very happy because I know my dad. For example, it's when she born, second time for me.